Okay, so one other transfer in the managerial department. Mr. Eriksson, back in England.
Is it? First question: can he keep it in his pants, or is this going to be another, circus around Sven-Goran Eriksson and all the stuff that goes on around him and that isn't involved?
He'll keep
with
us
the
journalists
team that he's
busy,
managing.
that's for sure.
Right, exactly.
I mean, people more than ever before, just because of his past and because that's what people are looking for. There'll be people going through his trash and following him whenever he's out.
Yeah.
He'll get the full paparazzi treatment.
Absolutely.
Much more than any other person coming into Manchester City.
He's a braver man than I'll ever be.
Is he to Man City what David Beckham is to the MLS?
Absolutely not. Next question.
In what sense?
Just, he gets the profile up, they become a big club,
Why has he come back to England when he was pretty much laughed out of court last time he was there?
He's a glutton for punishment.
Is it because he couldn't get a job in Italy?
He's a sadist. He couldn't get a job in Italy.
He
couldn't even get a job in Portugal, actually.
Exactly.
He was looking for a move back to Benfica, as far as I'm aware, and couldn't even get that move.
Right.
And I think he was holding out for one of the big 4 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's past his sell-by date. He's not going to doesn't bring a lot to didn't inspire England to any great heights. England did not really ever have any innovative tactics. I mean, the journalists picked the team for him.
Past his sell-by date. What do you mean by that exactly? In the way that managers, can go on until they're
I think
65.
Ferguson is like a good example of someone who you might say tactically is maybe past his sell-by date, were it not for his supports, like the Kires and bringing in the South Americans or Ronaldo and whatnot. He needed that, and that it happens. You just get out of touch with the way, outdated tactically.
Sort of the game, the modernization of the game passes you by. It's like the old, to use an American slogan, it's like the old, basketball coach, the Dean Smiths or the whoever. They've been in the game forever. And eventually, I think what you're alluding to is the game passes you by.
Yeah.
It evolves to a point where your tactics and ideas are no longer efficient. I don't think that's the case for Sven. I think he's right on top. I think he may be disappointed that he is at a club of less stature, but maybe it's a club that offered him the money he wants. And Sven is all about the money.
It's all about the money. Absolutely right. What do you think would have done more for US soccer this summer? Winning the Gold Cup again, or sort of decent progress in the Copa America, maybe with some good results against the likes of Brazil or Argentina?
At least seeing how the A team can match up
that's
against people like Argentina, rather than against teams like Guadeloupe.
Question. I genuinely would like an answer from you both. I don't know what the answer is.
I would agree. I mean, I think a big run against Brazil or Argentina, or even just to hit the semis in that tournament would have created a lot more profile. You saw the World Cup last year, the amount of excitement it generated, the amount of excitement the Gold Cup generated. I don't think.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. You just pointed on a perfect distinction. World Cup, everyone knows, cares about, follows Copa America.
Yeah.
It's followed by Americans. It's followed about as closely as the Gold Cup.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I'm still not sure
So
people would have
if one result doing really well in one tournament is going to raise as opposed to another. The people that really care about soccer and the sport in America would probably like to see us do better in Copa America. As far as what it does for the program long term, I don't know if one has
not in terms of the promotion or getting the the fans coming to the games, but in terms of the progress of the players. You're taking kids down there, they're losing 4-1 to Argentina.
Could have been 8-1.
Of course they're going to lose. They've barely played for their country. They're expected to play against the very best players in the world with no experience at that level.
But it's folly to say that they won't learn anything from that, Mark. I mean, if anything, those kids are going to realise that playing in the Gold Cup in 3 or 4 years means absolutely nothing compared to being able to ensure they can compete with their South American counterparts.
Half those players could mean that they never play again. They think, well, I don't have the confidence. I'm not good enough to play at international level.
But what about the other half?
As a US fan, I'd like to see that some of those players, specifically Eddie Johnson, doesn't get a chance in the national team again. I hope he played himself off it. But I mean, you make a valid point. The US, the players, is there a confidence hit from this? I think the only players taking real confidence hits are the players that probably never had a chance for the full team anyway. I think the players that are there that actually are legitimate contenders did perform well, guys like Feilhaber, Clark. I mean, for the guys that are actually on the cusp, I think it was a good experience. The guys that really laid an egg in the tournament are guys that, quite honestly are never going to be called up again anyway. So what did they really lose? I don't know.
We talked briefly before about who might be the next person to take over Beckham's mantle as a superstar in the MLS. We saw Freddy Adu finally live up to some of the hype that surrounded his entire fledgling career by scoring a hat-trick in the tournament. How good is this guy? Can he be a major player in the MLS?
I think he's excellent, but he's not going to be a major player in the MLS because he's going to try to move to Europe.
Could he be a major player in Europe?
I think he'll be gone by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
By the end of this summer, he'll be in Europe.
I believe so.
And at what level? Where do we see him going?
It's got to be a top club.
He said that I spoke to his brother a year ago, and he was saying he wants him. The family wants him to go to Spurs because they saw him as a second-tier club where he'll play. You know, and at this age in his development, he needs to do that. He goes to Chelsea, he'll sit on the bench.
Are we to believe that Chelsea and Man United are interested?
Well, Ferguson's definitely interested.
Yeah.
I mean, he did try him. You couldn't sign him, of course, last year because he was 17 and would have broke FIFA rules for transfer of youth.
Okay.
Where I see Freddie, I think he's got a lot more to learn. I think he's definitely going to get a lot of offers after this U20 World Cup. But where I like to see Freddie go is a team, perhaps in Holland or France, a club that he can learn something and grow at, and learn from some really great teachers of the game, like we see in Ajax or PSV or in Lyon or Marseille or some of these clubs where a player like Freddie can thrive. Freddie Adu in the English Premier League right now would get run over. He gets run over in MLS. He's slight. He's a kid. He's 18. He doesn't have, in a bruising league like England, it's not going to work for him. But that's where I envision him going, and I anticipate by the end of the summer you'll see Freddie Adu in one of the major clubs, smaller major clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to leave it there because we are out of time. So all that's left for us to do is to thank our valuable guests, Tony and Nis. Thanks for your contribution.
And join us again next week on The Shootout.